Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. I'm your host, Michael Tabor, doing this one here in my living room. Okay, getting right into this. I am finishing up on an older Tim Ferriss podcast, episode 104 from September 14, 2015. His guests are Martin Polanco, MD. He's the founder and program director of Crossroads Treatment Center based in actually in Mexico. Crossroads specialists, they specialize in helping patients conquer powerful addictions through psychedelics. Okay, so there's another gentleman here. His name is, oh God, I should have had this ready. Okay, there's another gentleman who also specializes, it's podcast, I'm sorry for that, by the way, but it's podcast, it's episode number 104. The one guy's Martin Polanco, the other guy I can't seem to find his name, but he also specializes in psychedelics to treat addiction issues and depression and all of these sorts of things, and obviously very controversial, like Ibogaine. Ibogaine, is it? Even microdosing, LSD, all this and that. Michael Pollan just came out with a book, and I'll talk about a mainstream guy, a solid citizen as it gets. Michael Pollan, holy fuck. He did a whole book on psychedelics, and he experimented with it all. Every single one of those drugs, MDM, what is that? MDM3, excuse me for my lack of knowledge on this stuff. But anyway, Michael Pollan was in his 60s or late 50s, and he experimented with all this, and he wrote a book. It's awesome. I have the book, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. So anyway, these guys, Martin Polanco and the other guy, are insist and are really adamant about seeing, if you will, God or something afterward. When you're tripping or whatever, you have this sort of experience. And this is so interesting to me because I myself, I didn't get there through psychedelics. I had an accident. I broke my back. I fell 23 feet and I died. I died in the hospital. I had an NDE, what's called an NDE, which is a near-death experience. I was clinically dead, I guess, for minutes, and I saw something. I had an experience. I saw God, if you will. I'm not going to go through that again. Go to my old videos on Tabor Talk channel. I've done at least a dozen videos on my NDE, and I get into all the details. But I saw something. And 5 years ago, before the accident, I was a confirmed freaking atheist. I thought, this is it. You're born. You're this and that. And then when you die, it was just a body. You die, you decay. You're 6 feet under. You're food for worms, and that's it. And I was pretty much convinced. And after this experience, I no longer feel that way. I think that there's something else after this. And all you atheists out there, you're going to be surprised. I mean, I was. My goodness. Now, here's the deal. It could be just what happened to me was, could have been trauma, right? The accident. Could be, oxygen, I wasn't breathing, right? I was clinically dead, and we all know about those oxygen starvation, your mind does weird things. I didn't sleep for I don't know, not good sleep for weeks, like really almost nothing. I was on major drugs. I had surgery and all this and that. So a million things, right, could have been the cause of this sort of NDE, whatever. I know that, and I understand that. But I don't know. I don't know. That's all I have to say. I think it was something else, NDE. Now, let me talk about what Richard Dawkins would say. Richard Dawkins was on Joe Rogan yesterday. Was it Monday? And I'm a big fan of Richard Dawkins, by the way. All the new atheists, Sam Harris, the late Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett. I've read all their books, and they're awesome. They're great. Their arguments are super powerful. No question about it. Very convincing that we're just fucking meat bodies, and when we die, that's it. Okay. Basically, all they're saying is that there's no evidence. There's no good evidence that there's a God or there's life after death and all that. And there really isn't. You can't deny that. There really isn't, except for, your faith or reading the, that's all there is. And I had this experience, which is all anecdotal and all that. So anyway, I still have this feeling. Gun to my head, is there a God? Yes. Gun to your head, is there life after death? Yes. Am I 100%? No. but that's my feeling. So anyway, Joe was talking to Richard Dawkins, and he's like, you're an atheist, you believe that's when you die, that's it. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Like, you're anesthetized for eternity. He goes, would you want to live forever? Just think about that. Like, that sounds awful. That sounds quite boring. Like, not, think about this. And I've done videotapes on this. And Shelley Kagan has a great seminar on, would you want to live forever? If you could take a pill, live forever. If you really think about it, it sounds like hell. Like, not 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000,000, gazillion, like eternity, never ending. It's fucking nightmarish, right? So I get that. So Richard Dawkins says, maybe I'd like to live 200. All right, maybe with this life extension. But anyway, so Rogan says, he goes, what do you think? Do you think there's a God or life after death? Dawkins turns it around on Joe, and he goes, I don't know. And he goes, Joe asks Richard, he goes, have you ever tried psychedelics? And Richard Dawkins says, no, I've not. And Joe goes, why not? And he goes, well, I've heard some horror stories about going, these bad hellish trips. He goes, I'm too old for that. I'd rather not. I totally get it. But Joe says, listen, I've done it several times, and I saw something like God and this whole thing. We all do. People who trip, or my NDE, it's shocking, beyond words shocking. It's like, holy fuck, there's more that meets the eye. There's more than just this life, whatever it is, 70, 80, 90 years, die, go to the grave. There's more to it. There are different levels. I believe that there is, when we die, I believe consciousness somehow sort of survives, and that we enter a new life form, sort of like I got my own philosophy. I'm not going to get into that now, but that's my feeling. Do I know for sure? No, of course not. It could very well be the case that we're just monkey people when we die and that's it. But it's incredible. I mean, Joe was trying to relay this sort of like, whoa, psychedelics, man, I saw God and all this. And Richard Dawkins, he goes, that very well may be, but it's a drug and it's your brain. Can't deny it, right? And he goes, but Joe goes, well, what about consciousness? Aren't you interested in consciousness? We really don't understand consciousness. And that's true. We know next to nothing about consciousness. We're getting better. But man, the brain with 89 billion neurons and thousands of connections with each, we're talking trillions and trillions. It's like virtually impossible. Like, what is this consciousness? What is this? We could sort of even understand the neurology, the physical stuff, kind of, but consciousness, no, it's too fucking complicated. Maybe someday, but I can't see it. Anyway, so Richard Dawkins says, well, yes, I'm interested in consciousness, but it's still the brain. And you can't have consciousness without the brain, and the brain decays and dies. Touche. You can't have any of these experiences, these NDEs, any of this, without this fucking thing. That's a really solid point by Richard Dawkins. It's totally true. And as I said in one of my earlier videos, like one from yesterday on Richard Dawkins on Joe Rogan, is that if you could somehow produce consciousness without a brain, then we're talking. Brainless consciousness. It's never been done. The soul, like, it's nothing. We don't have any evidence. There's no proof, like zero. Not a shred of evidence that we survived the death of our physical bodies and that there's a soul or consciousness and all that. So it's really, really interesting. But just to wrap this up, this excellent podcast with Tim Ferriss, again, let me just talk about, it's episode number 104, and it's Martin Polanco, and he specializes in this. And even in Africa, they have, like, Ibogaine, is it? That's an herb or plant from Africa. And you look at the ancient books and traditions, they all talk about God and psychedelics and all that. And you have to say to yourself, is there a God? Is there something? What is this? Or is it just monkey people ingesting psychedelic herbs and plants, right? Even, well, this is going long. I'll talk about this before, but what's the guy's name? Allegro. He wrote a book on the sacred tree, like Moses, when he went up, what is it, Mount Sinai, whatever, and he saw the burning bush, and basically, if you look, you have all these shrubs and herbs that are psychedelic. So maybe Moses, if he was a real person, ingested psychedelics, mushrooms, and he had a psychedelic experience. He saw a burning bush. He saw God. Like everyone, almost everyone who takes acid or mushrooms or whatever, like 90% see God or something. Okay, on that note, good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, peace, love, and understanding. Here's my crazy cat biting the hell out of me. I love this guy.